House Stark's origins are deeply intertwined with the ancient and mystical Children of the Forest, the original inhabitants of Westeros. The Stark lineage is said to descend from Bran the Builder, who, according to legend, forged alliances with the Children of the Forest to build the Wall and Winterfell. The Starks, like the children, worshipped the old gods, and their sacred weirwood trees, with faces carved by the children, were integral to their spiritual and magical practices. The Stark bloodline was believed to possess an innate connection to these ancient powers, with certain members of the family displaying gifts like greensight and warging, inherited from their distant ancestors. Indeed, many have speculated that there was some degree of intermarriage between certain factions of the First Men and the Children of the Forest, as many would point to being the explanation for the small size of the Crannogmen, who were said to be especially close to the children. Whether House Stark benefited from such children stock is not known today, but all legends point to a unique relationship between Bran the Builder and the children, as he is the only one reputed to have learned their mysterious, secret language eons past. Bran the Builder's legendary mastery of some strange blend of engineering and power magic is responsible for, if legend is to be believed, Winterfell Castle, the Wall, Storm's End, even the High Tower in Old Town. So it can be seen that even if he was responsible for even one of these ancient bastions of power, the power of House Stark was something to be reckoned with those millennia ago. It is certainly safe to say that the dire wolf as a symbol of House Stark was no coincidence, but rather a statement of the magical bond House Stark had with these creatures of the old magic. And while one could say that in this time of the First Men and the Children wargs were not so uncommon, the fact that the Starks specifically had a special kind of pact with the dire wolves speaks volumes as to their closeness even in those times. The Starks were powerful enough in these ancient abilities to have defeated another powerful First Man house, House Blackwood, millennia ago, driving that ancient house out of the Wolves' Wood and into the Riverlands thousands of years ago, though both houses maintained links to the old gods throughout the centuries. But unfortunately, as House Stark grew in power and influence, their focus shifted from the mystical to the practical, especially as they engaged more in the politics of southern Westeros. Over generations, the Starks' connection to the Children of the Forest and the old gods waned, as did their magical abilities, apparently. The direwolves went from a magical creature that the Stark bonded with for a combined strength that was greater than the sum of its part, to merely being a symbol of the house. The emphasis on ruling the North, maintaining order, and securing alliances took precedence over nurturing their ancient gifts. This drift was symbolized by the expansion of the Starks' influence southward, away from the heart of their ancestral magic in the north. And who could blame the Starks for turning their gaze southward? For first, they had to lead the only effective resistance against the Andals, even as all the other First Men houses in the south fell under their dominion, throwing back vast armies of these warmongering worshippers of the Seven at Moat Cailin. Then, centuries later, and perhaps after reaching some accord with Aegon, the Conqueror, concerning the preparing of the Seven Kingdoms for the next long night, Torrhen Stark had bent knee to the massive power shift in the south as House Targaryen claimed sole kingship over all the Seven Kingdoms. But regardless of how it happened or how justified it may have been, the Stark gaze was drawn ever more south instead of north. House Stark still took their duty of making sure the wall was effectively manned seriously, as is demonstrated in the intro to first episode of Season 2 of House of the Dragon, but it was slow, creeping turn of focus until the time of Game of Thrones, when Lord Rickard Stark was looking more towards southern politics than he was north of the Wall. Why the last Green Seer, the most powerful sorcerer among the children, and his kin allowed this ability in the Starks to go dormant is unknown. Perhaps they feared the misuse of these gifts for petty power grabs, though that certainly did not seem the way of House Stark throughout the generations. Or perhaps there was some schism deep in the past, perhaps pertaining to the legendary Stark that took the Night's Queen as a wife. We cannot say for sure, but we do know the Crannogman maintained close relations to the children, while the Starks gradually became the outsiders looking in. But as the long-forgotten threat of the White Walkers re-emerged, Bloodraven, a powerful Green Seer and Targaryen great bastard, took it upon himself to reactivate the Stark's dormant magical abilities. Through subtle manipulations and the guidance of direwolves, he ensured that the Stark children, Jon, Bran, Arya, Robb, and Sansa, were reawakened to their ancient gifts. The direwolves, once thought to be mere animals, were actually conduits for the old magic, each bonded to a Stark child to help unlock their latent powers. Bloodraven's prodding was most evident with Bran, who was groomed to become the new three-eyed raven. Robb Stark's bond with Grey Wind was strong, but in his pursuit of political and military goals, he often ignored the direwolf's instincts, not looking deeper into why Grey Wind was reacting violently to certain members of the Frey family. This fatal mistake culminated in Robb's downfall at the Red Wedding, where Grey Wind's agitation foreshadowed the dastardly Frey betrayal that Robb could not see. Grey Wind's death, alongside Robb, symbolizes what happens when the Starks turn their gaze from their duties to the north and their allegiance to old gods in order to become part of the more civilized southern politics. Bran Stark's journey north of the Wall, guided by visions and Bloodraven's subtle influence, was crucial in reawakening the old magic. Unlike his siblings, Bran was specifically chosen by Bloodraven to inherit the knowledge of the Children of the Forest and the powers of the Green Seers. Bloodraven's extra prodding through visions and dreams was necessary to push Bran toward his destiny, ensuring the survival of the ancient magic in the Stark line. Bloodraven has also taken a high degree of interest in Jon, prodding him in dreams to accept the destiny of Azor Ahai, influencing subtly and not so subtly at times through the use of Lord Mormont's Raven. He is a backer of sorts of Jon as the prophesized, just as Quaithe is the backer of Dany as the one destined to wield Lightbringer. Arya has manifested these gifts as well, sharing some strange gift with Nymeria's super pack, who, while not totally discriminate, do seem to have a habit of menacing Freys, sworn enemies of Arya and her Stark kindred. While Sansa has yet to manifest powers in noticeable way, we can perhaps see that all those that share Stark blood are being prepared by various forces to take part of the coming conflict. For they know that winter is coming, and that winter will be a time for wolves.